Hello, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. So, just a couple of days ago, we sat here and we talked about the 2003 version of The Haunted Mansion. And now here we are to break down the new one without Tex tonight. He is actually off doing some work, but that's cool. He's going to be back here on Thursday for whatever movie we decide to do. But fear not. I've got a killer couple of guys here to talk about this movie, so we're going to be just fine. The first of which being my hetero life mate, Jeremy. What's up, brother?
What's up? This is probably the closest you will ever see me to being religious. And don't worry, this is a whole farce. It's just for the show.
Jeremy may actually spontaneously combust live on cameras.
I mean, wouldn't that be a sight? That'd be pretty fun. And the only other thing is I played a priest in a music video for a buddy, and I'm like, yep, I know this. It had to do with alternate universes. I'm like, that's definitely alternate universe me, because that's not really me. But yeah, I love Owen Wilson as much as the next guy, so why not be Father Kent? Because I don't know, I can't get enough of Owen Wilson.
Who can? But also joined tonight, filling in for Tex, one of the guys who promoted us to even do these back-to-back reviews for Haunted Mansion, is your host, your ghost host, the Broody Gamer. What's up, brother?
I'm doing good, Frank. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, you've been very excited by these movies, and it's actually kind of fun to see your childlike excitement go on, how giddy you get when you talk about these movies. I don't get giddy about movies like this much anymore, except for maybe like Star Wars. Sometimes there's Star Wars. Not even the Marvel stuff gets me giddy anymore, but, that's all right. There's still plenty of shit out there.
Yeah, he's got me out here dressed like this. Yeah.
Yeah. But the movie we are here to talk about tonight is The Haunted Mansion. Let's see. And as I pull up my notes, which I usually print I haven't updated my new printer yet. And he's having some kind of a problem.
There's Haunted Mansion in the house.
Don't get pets ever.
The
the viewers are going to see is just this in the background. They're going to hear fucking Godzilla coming through the goddamn house.
Well, it didn't take long for this whole thing to go off the rails. But what we're here to talk about today is Haunted Mansion. It's the 2023 American supernatural horror comedy film directed by Justin Simien from a screenplay written by Katie Dippold. I'm sure I butchered that name. The film stars LaKeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Rosario Dawson, Dan Levy, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jared Leto. Produced by Walt Disney Pictures, it is the second theatrical film adaptation of Walt Disney's theme park attraction, The Haunted Mansion, following the 2003 film of the same name. In this film, Gabbie, played by Dawson, and her son Travis, played by Chase W. Dillon, enlist the aid of a team to help exorcise their mansion and destroy the ghosts around them. The film has so far made about $35.6 million against a budget of $150 million. And on Rotten Tomatoes, 42% of 162 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 5.4 out of 10. The website consensus reads, Haunted Mansion's talented cast makes the movie a pleasant enough destination, although it's neither scary nor funny enough to wholeheartedly recommend. I'll go to you first, Jeremy. Give me a quick paragraph that kind of gives us your thoughts on the film overall.
Damn, he cleans up quick. Look at that. Yeah, it was definitely a movie. Definitely a movie that happened. I guess it was more faithful to, say, the ride in terms of like the different ghosts and whatnot that you see that are, more prevalent in the ride. So that was kind of cool. And it leaned even more heavily into the fact that like this is like actually Louisiana. You're down in like the bayous and swamps, and I'm pretty sure that was like the French Quarter or something that we saw. So it kind of it helped that vibe of like, oh yeah, this is a pretty haunted town. There's ghosts everywhere and whatnot. Yeah, a lot of characters in this movie, a lot of talent, like a lot of people we all know. I mean, I know I'm having an Owen Wilson appreciation, but you can never go wrong with Danny DeVito, man. That guy is just on it all the time. And I know Frank is never going to say no to Rosario Dawson, so don't need to say much more.
Never.
Don't need to say much more than that. Yeah, so it was a fun movie. I don't quite know how I feel comparatively to the 2003 movie. I feel like I think we're going to talk about it, but I feel like the pacing in this one was a little weird. And the only thing that I will say last is that it was super, super distracting. And it took me out of the movie every time they had to have a line of dialogue, but then it was like they threw in an ad. Like it was just awkwardly like, hey, I got this pen and paper. If any ghost wants to talk to me, I bought it from CVS. I'm like, okay. Or you're in the middle of a really heartfelt sob story about your wife dying. And I was in it. I was like, God, this guy is killing it. He's like, yeah, she went out and then she went to Baskin Robbins for ice cream. I'm like, okay. But she never came back. She died. I was like, no, you ruined it, man. It was just the whole movie felt like an ad. So maybe that was a negative for me, but the ghosts were cool. Jared Leto was awesome.
So you had that going for us, which is nice. But yeah, I'll go to you next, Brooding Gamer. I mean, obviously you're pretty big on this franchise as a whole. Give us a quick paragraph what you thought of this particular film before we get too into the details.
Well, so I went and saw it with Jeremy the night it released on the 28th, and then I went and saw it again so that I could go through and just kind of find things that I missed or anything like that. And I have to say it was definitely something I enjoyed more the second time around. It was I'm with Jeremy on a lot that there was a lot of it was definitely like he said, it was a movie, but it wasn't it had its own special character to it, had its own special flair. I mean, it's definitely like Jeremy said, there's a lot where it's serious in a lot of moments, but then they just ruin it real quick for you with again, like Baskin Robbins, and it's almost as if they have to stop what they're saying to look directly at the camera and be like, and I mean, it's a serious scene where it's like, I want you to grab this pen and paper that I got from CVS, and I'm waiting for an ad to pop up, but they don't. But the second time around, seeing that, like that particular scene, I feel like is just her like kind of making sure they know that she spent money on this job. And so she wants compensation for that. But nonetheless, it was Easter egg central. It had that. I mean, you can ask Jeremy. I mean, half the time I was going, hey, that's this. Hey, that's that. That's the mansion from Florida. And now I'm being swarmed by animals again. It was a movie full of Easter eggs, and it was definitely something that the director paid a lot of attention to what the fans loved. But its story was definitely a lot darker and a lot deeper than the Eddie Murphy version. That I have to say is for sure. But that's my quick synopsis of that. So,
yeah, I would say mostly it was on par with the 2003 version. In a lot of ways, it was the same movie. There was a couple of things that were done better, but ultimately, I wanted the entire movie to be a step up, and I really don't feel like I got that from this movie. It was an enjoyable movie. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't mad when I left that the movie sucked or anything, but 20 years later, we've got different actors available to us, different special effects. It just felt like the same movie in a lot of ways, with the exception of a few key plot points and some better fleshed out characters. That was pretty much it. I mean, even the special effects seemed like something that we would have seen in the last film, which, like I said, was great for the last film 20 years ago. But for today, I wanted them to kind of like hit the. I wanted a little bit more of the horror element. Still stay Disney, but there's only really one kind of attempt at a jump scare, and it didn't do anything to me. You know what I mean? I kind of saw it. It wasn't important to the story. There were, like I said, it was an enjoyable film, but I wanted something more out of it. I didn't want just another trip down the 2003 version just with different actors. You know what I mean? Updated story was kind of cool. I thought it fleshed that out a lot more. I think it was a much more involved plot, which was nice. But ultimately, it wasn't. It was only a step or two better than the original 2003 film, and I wanted a couple steps more than that. Again, not a bad movie, but we'll break down the details. First starting with the cast, and I'll go to you first, Jeremy. A totally different cast in the movie, a lot of different characters. Some characters from the 2003 film didn't have quite as big a part, but we're still there. What did you think of the overall cast, and who, of course, stood out to you? Although I know pretty much what your answer is going to be. You're muted, Jay.
Fucking shit.
Go ahead.
Stupid ghost. I didn't say anything important, so it's a pretty loaded cast, like I said. So like even right there, you got Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, and like I said, DeVito. I think for like one hot second, there was the comedian Joe Coy, who I was kind of upset didn't have a bigger part.
Yeah,
because that guy is absolutely hilarious. So I was kind of hoping for more of him, but it's all good. Guy who played Ben, guy there in the striped shirt in the middle, he was pretty awesome. Like I said, when he was just, he's going through that scene, and he could make you feel like he was actually carrying grief throughout this movie of being brokenhearted over losing his wife. He had me feeling some feels. So kudos to him. Minus mentioning Baskin Robbins in the middle of your sad dialogue, but whatever paid for this movie, I guess. And yeah,
it's called product placement. Disney's no stranger to it.
I know, but I mean, Jesus, man, there's a limit. Christ, we're gonna put this vanilla scented Yankee candle right center frame. I was like, okay, guys. But I mean, I will say the thing I did appreciate about what I was talking about, him having kind of spilling out his emotions to everybody about losing his wife, and then talking about how her idea of going on a run was like going and getting a Philly cheesesteak and kind of just walking, or getting some French fries, and she had Baskin Robbins the day she died. And then Danny DeVito just swoops in and was like, "Man, what was the cholesterol with this woman? Philly cheesesteaks and French fries." I was like, and I mean, he makes him laugh, like makes him kind of feel better about him, and I was laughing with him, like, oh, you bastard, that was good.
Well, that's what good friends do, and I mean, I love that.
I mean, when you're all stuck in a haunted mansion together, yeah.
I mean, what else can you do but criticize the cholesterol of a man's dead wife?
I suppose so. I mean, whenever I'm in that situation, I'll try to remember that.
Like, I bet your wife was fat, and I wouldn't even be mad.
No, she was pretty damn good looking. I feel for dude. And then other than that, like Jared Leto as that Hatbox Ghost, I wish I had a little more of it, but I mean, it was still wicked cool to see. Yeah, that right there. Oh. It's like that's very well done. It was menacing. It's like I can kind of see him in there, but I'm like, I kind of just got lost in the makeup and the way he acted that Hatbox Ghost. That was pretty cool. Yeah, the only one that I think we didn't see from like the 2003 movie as much was like the Mr. Gracie ghost. I mean, like he was still there. And that's what I'm saying. Like we saw, like, I mean, I'm glad Bernie Gamer was there, because I'm like, I wouldn't have been like, oh, that's the sea captain, that's Mr. Gracie, that's everybody that's been involved in the history of this house. But I think this was it's cool to see all of them just collectively in this world being tormented by Jared Leto, which probably tracks. However he prepared for this movie, he probably sent him dead cats in boxes or whatever the hell he did for Joker,
something like that.
Yeah.
How about you, Broody Gamer? I mean, a cast loaded with some really talented people. What did you think of the cast overall, and who stood out to you?
Honestly, I thought the cast was pretty good. Actually, go back to Jeremy, find something else to talk about for a minute. I've got to completely relocate my entire location.
Goes too much. He's moving house. They follow you. Remember, you can't leave. They follow you.
It's true. They follow you. He's following Gracie through somewhere.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think I really said who stood out to me. I guess I would have still said Ben. Guy who played Ben. He really, made me believe. I'm like, he was a super smart guy, and then he just completely fell from grace, and he's just a local like ghost tour guide now. And it's like, man, I think even in the first scene when he's dealing with all those like tourists and shit, and he just does not care. He's putting his sunglasses on because he doesn't want to look at him. I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel you, dude. Like, he's like, I don't care. Ghosts aren't real. Who cares? Next. this place. Ooh, scary. I'm like, this dude's funny. I like him.
Yeah, well, for me, I got to be honest. I love the cast. I thought it was fantastic. For one, like Jeremy said, I'm never going to turn down a shot to see Rosario Dawson on screen.
Yeah.
But I really was kind of. There's two other things that stood out to me. One is LaKeith Stanfield, who plays the guy, the main character. He really was quite good. I was kind of worried that without having that Gracie character to kind of carry the third act, that they were going to end up putting it on the shoulders of Owen Wilson, which might not have. I mean, he's not the main character for one. For two, we're used to seeing Owen Wilson try to carry some movies. Rosario Dawson would have bothered me, but it kind of wasn't the role that she was playing. But as Siri's yelling at me now, but he really does carry this film, and it's actually quite good.
Yeah,
the kid was pointless. It's not that I didn't like him. It's not that his performance was bad. It's just that it was such a. The character being in there was his existence was a trope. It's like you could delete him from the movie and it wouldn't matter. Even the emotional beats that build between him and what's his name, Bill, the main character, Ben. Even the emotional beats that kind of exist for a minute between him and Ben wouldn't have changed anything because I'm already kind of feeling emotionally connected to Ben because of everything that he went through early on in the film. So. The kid's character was really just not necessary other than he trips and falls a couple of times and
there's the got possessed by his dad or some shit.
Yeah. Until he becomes kind of the Mary Sue character towards the end of the film, he doesn't really play a role. The other thing that I noticed is we were making a big deal a few weeks ago, as I recall, about how a certain somebody from Stranger Things was going to be in there. And guess who was in there for all of 5 seconds in a cameo? Miss Winona
Joyce was
Ryder.
in there for a hot minute.
Miss Winona Ryder, who was like, as soon as I saw her, I was like, all right, here's Winona Ryder. And then she's not in the rest of the movie. And I was like, that's kind of a waste because they made kind of a big deal that she was going to be in the movie. But, whatever.
And that car that Ben drives, I'm like, it looks suspiciously like Hopper's police cruiser. I'm like...
Kind of, yeah.
When they drove away and it was all dark outside and scary, I was like, now you give that back to Hopper now. Before you go back upside down.
Yeah, but like I said, for me, I mean, obviously, Jared Leto is just something special. So, obviously, I'm gonna love seeing him. But I really do like the guy that played Ben. He was kind of a standout and kind of carries everything. You see anything?
You looking
Take
for
a picture.
You looking for? Don't use the flash. Remember?
Use your quantum lens.
Yeah, quantum lens.
Jesse loves anything quantum mania, quantum whatever. But
right.
The cast was really solid. But once again, I'm a little disappointed that they made a big deal out of having Winona Ryder. She basically is in kind of it's not even a glorified cameo. It's just a cameo. There's not really anything special about it.
Yeah, we were saying like, man, when they kept asking her like, did that belong to him? Did that belong to him? I thought, she was going to say something and be like, well, stranger things have happened. You could have just mic dropped and walked away with that. Like, come on, do something.
Yeah, BJ is asking who are the ladies in the first pick. The one on the left is Rosario Dawson, who I have a big-time celebrity crush on. And the other girl who plays the psychic medium lady is Tiffany Haddish. She's been in a lot of. She's gotten really big recently. She's been in a couple of good movies as well. But the guy in the middle that plays Ben, and obviously there's Owen Wilson on the right. But the guy that plays Ben, he really is kind of the emotional center of this entire movie. And he was very good. I really liked him.
Very good, yes.
Now let's talk about the plot. A big difference from the first movie. Ultimately, kind of a little bit of the same thing, which is way more ghosts involved in the final outcome of it all. I'll go to you first, Bernie Gamer. Did the plot work out well for you? Because it was, like I said, a big departure from a 2003 film. But I mean, were they good changes? Did they work for you?
I didn't dislike the plot at all. I thought the plot was pretty damn good. My only issue, and I talked with Father Tuesday about this, was that it was a little too rushed. I felt like there was more of a story told in the first, I don't want to say the first movie like this is a sequel, but I felt like there was more of a story told in the short time that movie was versus this movie, where to me it came off like they were trying to cover too many steps in a short amount of time. It was like, 1 minute we're here, then we're bouncing over here, now we're bouncing over here, now we're, by the way, did you know this person? By the way, and it was just, that's the one thing I said to Jeremy. I was like, I feel like there's too much going on, and they're trying to cover too much ground in a short amount of time. So it's like the plot was good. It was definitely, to me, a lot darker than the first movie. And I mean, you know, just covering the topic of grief and loss like they were, it was definitely a lot deeper of a subject. And but plot wise, I think they did pretty good. I think it was a little hard to follow at times, but when it was on track, it was pretty good.
I didn't think it was all that hard to follow necessarily. It was definitely a much denser story than the original. The original was a bit basic, but then again, I think that's, like I said, that's kind of where Disney does its best work. A basic story, you know, decent characters, you know, make everybody go oh at the end, you know, happy ending for everybody, and then, you know, find the hidden Mickeys and go on about your day. But yeah, but this was definitely much more involved story, there was much more to explain and much more to build upon, which I thought was pretty fun. As far as I'm concerned, it was a good plot. Like I said, it was a lot more involved. There was a lot more to it than just we have to, you know, get out of this haunted house, and he's trying to like steal the guy's wife, and he's not really making out with your mother, that kind of thing. But I love the fact that there was a couple of different character arcs that you got emotionally involved. You get emotionally involved with the kid a little bit, even though I think he was generally useless in most of the movie. You get emotionally involved with him a little bit. You get really emotionally involved with the character Ben. You kind of feel a little bit for Rosario Dawson, although it doesn't really get into what her story is until the very end. You don't even know. It just says she needed to start a new life. It doesn't really explain anything until towards the end of the movie about her. You kind of start to feel a little bit for Owen Wilson's character when you find out that he was kind of a fraud. Spoiler alert. He's not really a priest, but ultimately that didn't really matter. I mean, same thing with Tiffany Haddish. And really kind of the same thing with Danny DeVito's character is there really are, I mean, I guess this is probably what supporting characters do, but they really were just there to kind of like help build the scenery. I mean, Danny DeVito's always going to add something to the movie, whatever he's in. I mean, even if
he's so much fun.
Fairly simple, yeah, he's always been fun to watch, even when he tries to do something a little more serious. He was great in Hoffa. He was great in Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey. It's like he adds something to every movie he's in. But yeah, the plot I think was much more involved, way more emotional. I mean, as I was listening to, like, watching Ben go through everything he went through in the first act, and then him having that moment where he's trying to explain what happened to him that kind of broke him and changed his life for the worst. I was feeling for this guy. For a minute, I was just kind of putting the movie aside. I was just listening to this man talk, and man to man, I was feeling for this guy. Mm-hmm. I didn't get that emotionally involved with any of the characters from the 2003 version, like at all. I mean, and they weren't necessarily, you weren't necessarily meant to, but at the same time, you gotta have that little emotional pull. You got to connect with one of these people, or get your viewer to connect with one of these people at least, to try to suck them into the story. And Ben did that for me. I mean, I really liked his performance. I thought he was fantastic, and I thought it was a great thing to build the rest of the story around. I feel like he's the center of it all, not necessarily Rosario Dawson's character. Like, he's kind of the center of all this, and all this happening is kind of leading him to an outcome rather than Rosario Dawson and her son, their characters. Even though it's their house, they call him in. I think this is very much his movie, which wasn't bad because I really, really liked him. But let's talk about the special effects for just a minute. I mentioned that the special effects for the first movie were pretty good for 2003 is when it came out, 2003.
Yeah.
There were some spots where this movie did very well. The rest of them, like the scene that's on screen, it seems like something that I would have gotten in the 2003 movie. It didn't seem like there was anything that really stood out. I'll go to you first, Brooding Gamer. I mean, do you feel the way I feel, or did you really think they really stepped their game up for the special effects in this one?
Honestly, I felt like it was kind of dated. Oddly enough, on screen, what you have now is one of the things I had the biggest problem with. Was the fact that, I mean, they made Constance Hatchaway look like a flippin' ogre. I'm not sure what the hell they were doing there, because everybody else looks like a normal human. But you get her with glowing eyes, a big-ass weird honking nose, and these weird teeth. And not to imagine the animalistic behavior, which made no fucking sense to me. But with that, the special effects, to me, it was like they looked like, oh, God, and then there's him. You're not hitting any good points, Frank. I mean, by the way, that's the ghost host, if you didn't know. It's oh shit, dude. It was just like there were parts where I'm like, okay, that looks cool and all, but like all the ghosts that weren't a main focus had these weird. They just look like I've seen them out of a video game. Like you took them out of Skyrim and placed them in this, and like all these generic skeletons, but each one had like different clothing on. And they just looked like, why are you doing this to me, man?
I'm trying to get the jump scare out of you or the viewers that like they couldn't get out of me when I was in the theater watching this yesterday.
Yeah, them buck teeth there, Winnie Sanderson over here.
Right, seriously.
They looked like if you weren't a main ghost and you didn't have a main character, like a main focus, like all the ones you had in the last shot, then you were this generic. I came out of the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. And that was it. And I mean, and then like I'd say possibly the worst special effect in the entire film was Tiffany Haddish running in on a ghost horse, and that looked like the worst. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? We got this bitch riding in on a goddamn spooky horse. Like, what is happening? Like, I wasn't happy with the way the ghost looked. The only ghost, and I do mean the only ghost who looked amazing. I think they put all their budget into Alistair Crump. I just, the way he looked, he was awesome. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously he's going to look a little cartoony because he's, dead, but I'd say all the budget was put into him alone. And what budget they ran out of is where his nose went. But, apart from that, it looked good. The effect of his head going into the hat box, I'm not sure what the point of that looking like a lantern was, because it was so bright that honestly, if you're in the wrong lighting, you're not going to be able to see what that is. You're going to see a bright light in a box. I mean, it was a little hard to see. That was really the only negative effect on him that I had, but everything else apart, like the mansion, the spinning and everything. And there were a few times where I'm just like, yeah, that could have looked better. I mean, yeah, the alligators looked a little wonky, but I mean, it's just, I feel like they could have, for a Disney movie, they should have the budget to put all in this. And I feel like they put it elsewhere. And, I mean, it wasn't like so bad that I refused to ever watch the movie again, but it's one of those, like, I still look at the 2003 version. I'm like, for that time, that looked better.
I'll go to you next, Padre. What did you think of the special effects? Were they a step up, or were they just still kind of meh?
Some of it, I mean, could have been kind of a step up. Like,
I'm sorry, I was not expecting that.
What?
On screen.
Oh, I know. I see it. Okay, I'm playing with like 4 different tabs on my my computer here. Sorry.
Sorry.
Well, that right there wasn't. That was something that happened. As I was starting to say, well, some of it was a step up, and then there's that.
It actually got me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's like we're supposed to know he got like possessed by a different ghost when Ben was in the ghost realm or whatever. And I was gonna say, I'm glad you put up Men of Leota. I was gonna say that I kind of like that it wasn't like the smoke. It was like her hair is what just kind of filled up the entire crystal ball. Like that was kind of cool. I don't know if it's just me, but like I don't know. Sometimes her line delivery just seemed a little awkward.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She was not at peak Jamie Lee Curtis.
No, and I was like, this just feels kind of awkward. Like she's part of. I mean, I get it. You go in for hair and makeup, and you're probably on a green screen. You're probably just reading off lines. But I mean, I don't know. It just didn't feel like as cool as I thought it was going to be. She looked cool. I mean, like I said, the effects of that, like I said, I like that it's her hair that kind of fills up the entire bowl instead of like the smoke like it was with Jennifer Tilly. But I still like, the way they did her. So either way, that wasn't really a negative for me. I appreciate that the ghosts still kind of look like we said, like how they did with Star Wars. Like you film the person doing their scenes and you just kind of make them, turn them blue, make them look ghostly. It's a pretty straightforward effect. I'm like, that kind of in keeping with it. But, the 2003 one did just as well with it. Yeah, it's just there's some parts where I did kind of fall off. It got a little too clay-faced and kind of cartoony. But any of the scenes, like I said, that like he said too, that had the Hatbox Ghost with Jared Leto, those were very well done, and I could sense that like when he finally kind of got to his peak in the movie, doing trying to make his basically a deal with the devil, trying to take Ben's soul as the last one that he needs. It's like, okay, I got you. I see it. I see you.
Yeah, the special effects for me were on par with the first movie. I wanted something a little bit better. When it comes to like these ghosts, I'm not so upset that they looked the way they looked. I mean, the idea of them looking basically just like Force ghosts, like Jeremy said, or were kind of what I expected from the smaller players. I do like the fact that they made the Hatbox Ghost look like more of a threat. He wasn't just some astral figure that was floating around in vapor. He was like legitimately a physical threat that could do. It was like having the main bad guy there in person with the weapon to kill you. And I thought that was really cool. That's what differentiated him from the rest of the ghosts. So I like that. But overall, they weren't fantastic. I was really hoping that Disney would kind of go a little harder with some of the special effects, make them a bit more. I don't want to say R-rated. I don't want to see a lot of blood or murder, or spitting ass everywhere. But I mean, go a little bit edgier. Maybe make these things look a little bit more like the kind of ghosts that we would see from something like The Frightening or Prom Night or something like that. I mean, give them more fangs, make them look more scary rather than just people who are like had this blue aura around them. I mean, with the exception of the chick in the front and the guy on the right, the rest of them don't look scary. They just look like people in costume. Make them look a little scary. I wish they would have leaned into the horror aspect of this a little bit more, especially with special effects. I can understand why Disney doesn't want to do that because they're Disney. They're mostly kids. It's all going to be PG or even G-rated for most of their stuff, so you don't want to go too far. But you can lean into it a little bit and still keep it kind of in that kid-friendly zone, I think. I wish they would have done that. My biggest problem, like I said, is that while they are good, they still look like 2003 level effects. And I wish they would have gone a little bit farther. I think it'll hold up 20 years from now when we're watching this. I think it'll hold up. But with whatever special effects awesomeness we're going to be getting 20 years from now, I'm afraid we're going to look back on this and be like, really? I mean, it's like we could have done that just a little bit better. I mean, especially looking back on it in hindsight. But yeah, I mean, I thought they were kind of average. Like I said, the only thing that really impressed me was Hatbox Ghost. I like how they made him like a real physical presence, not just some ghost floating around in vapor or fog or anything like that. That made him a lot funner to watch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not saying that every ghost needed to be like him, but it made him a lot funner to watch. It would have been nicer to me if they would have had every ghost have like a different thing. Like maybe one of them floats around that blue fog, and then like one of them is at least another color, or something like that. Maybe we don't even get to see the Gordon's fisherman that's haunting the Ben character. We don't even get to see him, which is kind of disappointing. Now, just seeing the footprints is kind of cool, but it would have been pretty cool to see like that guy take some kind of form other than just the pictures that Ben takes of him in the beginning. But let's go on. We've already kind of been doing this. So let's go on to the direct comparisons to the 2003 film. I'll go to you first, Jeremy. Compare these two films. What was the biggest difference for you from the 2003 film to this one, and was it a positive difference?
Yeah, more ghosts. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that's something. I mean, if you want to say with your remake, your reboot, whatever, you want to do something bigger. So again, I appreciate that. Like we saw this other, and it kind of tied into like the medium, like Tiffany Haddish's character, the medium, like, oh, there's this ghost realm with, there's now we can see all these ghosts that like reside in this house. So that was kind of cool. And while I like the simplicity of the 2003 ones, like I said, they picked Mr. Gracie as, you know, kind of the main guy, and he at least had a decent part in this movie. Like, you know, he was like kind of their connection. Like when Ben went to that ghost realm, he was like trying to follow him around, and while he's looking for, you know, his wife, it's like Mr. Grady, that is Gracie, that is, sorry. He was at least like a catalyst in trying to help. And, you know, I know when the Hatbox Ghost comes out and everybody's trying to hide, which is funny. If you got a ghost that scares all the other ghosts, that's like, oh, that's, you know, that's something else. Which, to be fair, I guess that's kind of what Ramsley was like in that movie. You know, he was having the maid and the footman like shaking in their ghost boots, you know, telling them like, yeah, basically you could be in purgatory and there's still things that are worse than that. And it's like, damn, dude. All right. Yeah, it felt like a bigger movie, which I guess is not like a bad thing, but it did, like we mentioned, did feel a little dense. And it's kind of like, oh, I'm trying to take all this in, but also trying to be following, like, okay, so what are we doing? Are we trying to, you know, figure out what we need to do here with these ghosts? Because that's kind of the same point as, like, you know, Mr. Gracie was just trying to find the soul reincarnated of his lost love. And they're like, oh, we need to find something specific to this Hatbox Ghost that was actually his to be able to, you know, to banish him. So it's kind of the same in that respect. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to talk about this point, I'm sure, but we're talking about like the 2003 one being a simple story. It's like you could probably like we said, you could probably sit your kid down and have them watch this movie. It's not like over the top scary. It's just kind of, it's fun. There's some kind of scary elements to it, but you know, you can kind of sit back and enjoy it. It's like this one, I'm like, yeah, like Frank said, it's a little more heavy on the emotions on it. I mean, I don't know if some kids are gonna sit there for 2 hours as opposed to an hour and a half and be, you know, as invested. I don't know. Like he said, I was fully invested in Ben's character and like his him carrying this weight that I'm assuming he just didn't deal with really. He just kind of buried it all down. And that's just what's been plaguing him for the last few years, I think it was. So I don't know. Would it be something that, like I said, could, like, you know, you could sit a kid down and have them watch, and it's still fun for, you know, for the parents watching. Maybe not so much as the 2003 one. So maybe that's my only negative thing about it being different.
How about you, Broody Gamer? I'm interested to see what you think because you're a fan of both these movies. So, I mean, how do these compare, and does one kind of jump out as your favorite?
So each one, I mean, the original will always be my favorite just because it's like it's what I grew up on. It is a movie, literally, and I'm not joking when I say this, that when we went to Disney for the first time, we watched this movie, my brother and I, on repeat the entire car ride. So it was like, awesome. I'm sure my parents were like, if I have to hear Evers and Evers one more time, we're about to jump out of this car. But for
Evers and Evers.
You're gonna watch this movie for Evers and Evers. Each film is gonna have something in my heart that I really enjoyed, and I mean, the first movie had some really cool characters with Gracie, and that version of Gracie. I liked this version of Gracie, and I liked that they still focused on the fact that Gracie was wanting to find his love, and but I mean, there was one thing that, you know, this movie answered a question of why in the hell is there 999 dead people in one mansion? And that is something that has never really been, I mean, it's been mentioned literally when Walt Disney was building the ride, was that it was just a place for ghosts to come and stay and have a good time. It was literally like a hotel for ghosts. But I love how they incorporated that with he did a seance with Madame Leota. What was it, at midnight for 12 years or something like
every night at midnight for 12 years, or was it
yeah,
every
a long
week?
time. A long time.
Yeah, too damn long.
And every single seance, they summon a new spirit that's not her because, well, she's moved on. She's passed on. And I loved that because I'm like, well, that's actually kind of cool that this man just kept summoning the wrong ghost over and over and over. And instead of wrong number, they're just like, yeah, we're going to hang out. And they legitimately enjoyed, were happy to be there. And
that's kind of like the Doctor Strange thing. Like, he was trying so hard to get all that power to be able to bring back, bring the girl back, stop her from dying. And it just leads down a rabbit hole. It just gets worse and worse and worse, no matter how hard you try. Yeah.
And that's what I like. Is, I mean, eventually, yes, that, I like how she starts with, eventually we summon the wrong one. And then you get introduced to this big bad that for people who don't know the ride and don't know what the hell they're watching, they're just like, well, what the hell's this? Who is it? Like, and then the whole time I'm sitting there in my seat, like giddy as a schoolgirl, like he's fucking Hatbox Ghost. I've only seen this motherfucker on like pictures and videos of Disneyland, but, and that's the thing. And I've already trailed off because that's what I do, but this movie had quite a lot of really good things going for it. And so did the original. I look at the score for the film. I thought that the original had a really dark and scary sounding, like, real deep organ music. And they threw the theme in your face. But then you go to this film, actually that scene right there, that's typical of how the Mansion music was in the first movie. And you get Victor Geist playing. I mean, I wish they would have shown his face because I wanted to know who that voice was because it sounded familiar. But I like how, they focus on the Hatbox Ghost's music. His preference is that old organ sounding music that we got from the first movie and that we got. But then, by the end of the film, when they're able to play their own music, it goes back into this. And Jeremy, you probably know this better than I, the style of music for Louisiana and New Orleans, that upbeat trumpet. And I don't know what it's called. And I hate that. I'm sure my fiance would know, but
it's like New Orleans jazz.
Yeah, jazz. Thank you, jazz. And it was cool to hear that version of it because I even said something to Jeremy. I'm like, I never thought I'd want to hear the Haunted Mansion theme in jazz. Like it's just badass. And I mean, it's my ringtone, for God's sakes. It's always been one of my favorite sounding themes because you hear that and you instantly know what it is. And so it was cool to hear that taken on in this way. Certain things I think that the original did so much better was like the introduction, like, the most iconic song for this ride and movie is Grim Grinning Ghost. And the only time it plays in this, which I didn't realize until the second watch, is it plays at the very beginning when the Hatbox Ghost is standing in the door in the gateway saying, "You'll be back," which was a nod to Madame Little Leota. There's this little statue at the end of the ride called Little Leota. And at the end it says, "Hurry back, don't forget to bring your death certificate." Which that wasn't said once, damn it. But in this, it was the nod for Hatbox Ghost, saying, "Hurry back. They always come back." And that was cool. But they say the line Grim Grinning Ghost right at the end of that. And then you get this really, really awkward style of Grim Grinning Ghost at the very end of the movie, which I wasn't a fan of because, that's the most iconic song for the entire ride in the movie. And I think that they really screwed it up making some giant performance of it when in the Eddie Murphy version, it's just the heads, the singing bust, which made no appearance in this movie at all. It really grinds my gears, but it's just a super quick thing in the first movie that you're like, hey, it's the song. But in this, you're just like, it's so busy and so crazy of what's going on, and there's too much in your face. And I was just like, okay, well, there's the song. So, I mean, comparing the two, it's like, I like the cast for this one a little bit better. I think they had the cast going for them character-wise. Ben Mathias stole him and Hatbox, and I think his name was Bruce. Is that who?
Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito was?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The three of them stole the film. And then you look at the Eddie Murphy version, and you have the ghost and the wife stole the film. Ramsley, Edward Gracie, and the two, his two lackeys, and Eddie's wife were honestly the best parts of that movie. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I gotta give a slight advantage to this version, the 2023 version. I mean, so to kind of compare the two, I mean, I like Gracie was a much better character in the 2003 version. I really liked him, especially towards the end. I like Eddie. I love Eddie Murphy. I grew up on Eddie Murphy, his stand-up, Raw and Delirious, and watching all the movies, Beverly Hills Cop. So I don't think you could ever really go wrong with him. And to be honest, he's actually a very good actor. And then of course you have Terrence Stamp, who was an absolute freaking legend, good guy, bad guy, either way. This movie though, it's got two things that. It's got one thing in particular that I think was much better than the original film, and that's the emotional level. I never really felt emotionally invested in 2007 film. It was always, to me, it's just one of those movies that you watch for a giggle. You watch Eddie Murphy do his thing. You don't really feel attached to any of them. You get emotionally attached to Ben right off the jump, and that kind of carries you through the entire film. And then kind of sort of eventually the kid, and then and because of that, you start to open yourself up to the rest of the characters. But those are the two that really carry the film. The other thing is just Ben. The performance of this guy was awesome. Once again, his name is, I'll put my notes up. His name is LaKeith Stanfield. And he really does carry this movie in a way that even Eddie Murphy, who was already a megastar when the movie came out in 2003, that even he didn't really do. So that to me kind of gives the slight edge to this version of the film for me. I wanted a lot more out of this film. I can't say either one of these films are bad. I'm not going to say this one's bad, but I wanted a bigger step up. I didn't quite get it, but man, there was a couple things about this. One was a high emotional level, and one was just the character Ben. I just thought he was a fantastic character, and that kind of pushes the 2023 version over the top for me a little bit when you compare these two films. But again, I don't think you can be wrong really liking either one of these films. I mean, they're very different but the same. All at the same time, if that makes any sense. So you can't really go wrong liking either one of these films. But Disney did make it clear that they were hoping to start a new franchise with this movie, maybe something akin to, and this is a pretty bit lofty comparison, but they were making comparisons to the Pirates of the Caribbean, which has made something like $4.8 billion or something like that across all the films, total theatrical, take. I think that's asking a lot, but yeah. I mean, I'll go to you first, Broody Gamer. Do you think there is a chance that this could spur another franchise based on a Disney ride?
I don't. I mean, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. There's all, when you look at that, there is so much lore to Pirates of the Caribbean that, Davy Jones, skeleton pirates, just there's a lot there that you can play with. And I mean, for one, Pirates has so many different types of pirates out there to focus on. But like looking at Haunted Mansion, there's only the ocean and the world is a big place. The Haunted Mansion is one house, and really the only way they could have done a different franchise or make franchise out of this was not focus on certain ghosts that have already been looked at as villains within the ride and within the franchise that's already what we have. Constance Hatchaway is a woman who runs around and decapitates people, is now limited to just looking like a really weird looking, like there's just the main bad guy was a character that has never been focused on within the films. It's only been focused on within the ride over in Disneyland. And now we're back, like that. If they want to bring him back somehow, I mean, I'm not really sure where they could go with this. It's just like there's 999 ghosts and you focused on every one of them and none of them have any role to carry on to make like, oh, now this one's a bad guy all of a sudden. So sequel time, or now there's a new big bad ghost over at the other mansion. Well, we already focused on that other mansion. Like it's just no. I could sit here for an hour, and for someone obviously who loves this franchise as much as I do, who would love to see different iterations of this film. I still hope for the Guillermo del Toro version to come out one day, but I don't see where they could go with it unless Ben decides to where they're going to focus on him becoming like a ghost hunter, and then going and dealing with going and doing ghost hunting or something. But like, what would they do unless they decide to start focusing on the other mansions around the world? Because there is one other mansion that could have something to do with it, and that would be Phantom Manor over in Paris, which is Haunted Mansion, but instead of following Mr. Gracie and Hatbox Ghost, who I don't even think are even mentioned in that ride whatsoever, it's just a bride whose name I can't remember, who her husband died, and she does the typical, lady in white thing where she spends her last breath waiting for her husband to return. Now she's haunting the mansion, but now there's a phantom that's literally just called the Phantom with a skull for a head. So I guess they could go in that route, have Ben go to Paris for this. So maybe they could make a sequel out of it and just call it Phantom Manor. So it'd be like a non-titled sequel. Can't call it Haunted Mansion 2. I don't know.
You can't call it the Phantom Menace either. So
they
own that too. Unfortunately,
yeah, they can. They own it. They can call it whatever they want. The Phantom Menace.
I do think that
it'd be Darth Maul.
I honestly forgot all about the Phantom Manor, so I'm like, oh, there's no franchise. Well, so if they decided to cover
opening that door just that little bit,
if they decided to go for another one, and the Disney and the Phantom Manor is honestly a lot darker than the Haunted Mansion is. There's a lot more when you look on the ride of that, there's a lot more of this spirit that is going around and literally torturing this woman to kill herself. And I don't remember if she dies by suicide or if she just dies of old age waiting for her husband to return or whatever. But I mean, the whole ride is literally this guy going out of his way to ruin this woman's life. So I could see that being a good sequel if they decided to make another one. But other than that, I really don't know what else they would focus on. If they hadn't had shown Alistair Crump's manor, his mansion being the Disney World mansion, which I do want to say I thought was a really cool Easter egg. I would have said, okay, so Disneyland Mansion will be the first film. Disney World Mansion would be like a second one. But I think they kind of ruined that idea for themselves by doing the Easter egg. And then I don't know. I could see it becoming a franchise. It would be interesting to see where they go with it if they did. But if they didn't, I could see at least one more movie coming out of this. But that would be it.
Yeah, Jeremy, what do you think? What are the possibilities of them turning this into a franchise that they want to try to compare to the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise?
That's a pretty big ask, I think, because now the scale of this movie, like we said, compared to the 03 version, is like, yeah, it's one family in this house, and there's a good deal of ghosts. They had dead people in the backyard. But this one seemed to, it seemed to expand on that. Like I said, there's 999 ghosts here. So, yeah, great. But as he mentioned, I'm like, kind of in their titles, you're kind of restricted by, you're talking about a Haunted Mansion. I'm like, yeah, that's the house. And I know we kind of had like that ghost realm. That's one thing. But then when you're like, oh, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. The Caribbean's it's bigger than a mansion is what I'm saying. So, I don't know. Now, do I think they would try that? I mean, absolutely. It's Disney. They're, going to milk every single franchise, every single thing they have out of anything. But I would hope that they actually see the light at the moment that they're like, you're not doing so hot. You're trying to throw out all these movies and none of them are sticking to the wall right now. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't do this because I feel like you're just going to keep putting yourself into a hole. Like he mentioned, I mean, yeah, there's another mansion, and I'm like, I know that could be a possibility. And like I said, there's 999 ghosts. Sure, you could pick one of them, but should you? No, probably not. It's in France. I mean, at least it kind of makes sense. If they're in New Orleans, I mean, they speak French there too, so it kind of makes sense. That's your only tie that's the only tie I could make between what he just said about there's another one in Paris. But I don't know. There's a lot of cast here that I'm like, I don't know if you want to have this kind of commitment to making other movies. And I don't know what else more you'd expand on. It seemed like everything was kind of tied up and taken care of. So I don't know. That's a no from me, dog.
Well, look, you've got a built-in bad guy for the sequel. You've got Jared Leto. Who's to say that Crump doesn't find some spiritual way to come back from whatever hell he was cast down into at the end of this movie? Yeah. And maybe instead of this time, instead of trying to find 1,000 souls to reanimate himself or whatever the hell he was doing, maybe now he just has a vendetta against Ben and the rest of these people. I mean, that's a very basic plot line. I mean, I'm not writing the script for it or anything, but that's a very basic plot line.
No one is.
No, if you wanted to put the Phantom of Phantom Manor and the Hatbox Ghost together in a team, that would make it pretty.
We're having a team up sequel.
I mean, they're both pretty dark. I mean, well, given again, the Phantom, he has a character. He's a person. His personality, and that is to ruin someone's life. Hatbox Ghost has literally only been known to stand in the attic and his head go boop boop, and that's it. So it's like the fact that they made the Hatbox Ghost's character so damn terrifying. Like, he was intimidating. He was very intimidating, just his presence, and then you give him this backstory. So, I mean, if you were to have the Phantom make an appearance as a bad guy, and then you have Alistair Crump come back somehow, I'm here for that. I mean, what's to say if the piece of his hat that wasn't destroyed gets destroyed? Would that be able to bring him back? So, I mean
That's pretty baller though. When he's getting drug into hell, he's still like, you have no idea what you're doing. And I'm like, damn, dude, you're about to like be banished, and you're still talking shit. My God.
Also,
hey, you know what?
Wife again. What? You're still here?
Terrence Stamp is still alive. Maybe he meets a little ghostly Terrence Stamp in hell, and then him and Jared Leto can sequel. There you go.
Jared Leto,
he meets some spooky butler in hell, and it's like, oh, it's Terrence Stamp. It's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah. I love the fact that Jared Leto does not make an appearance, and like they don't actually show him as him, but when they're going through that
painting,
just going through that cool montage, because that honestly was my favorite part of the entire film, was just that montage of them explaining the history of Alistair Crump and why he did what he did. I love the
But I think you could do that in a sequel, though. You could find some way to make that happen. So you could actually have Jared Leto not just doing some mocap and doing the voice, and see him still framing a couple of paintings. Like maybe he finds some other way to reconstitute or reanimate himself, and that's what leads to the ultimate confrontation in the third act between him wanting to get revenge on Ben for stopping him and Ben.
Yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, I can see this actually happening now. Like before that, I'm like, no, I don't know where we're going with this.
And since Leota decided to stay at the mansion, she was like, no, I'm gonna stay there. And she's like, it's okay, I'm cool with that. I'm like, well, there's kind of your connection then. Like maybe she gets wind of it and has to tell everybody like, hey, this dude's come back.
There's a disturbance in my force.
My glass balls are rattling. Something's wrong.
Hey, she said quite roomy in there. So,
but yeah, the comparisons to the Pirates of the Caribbean movie kind of worry me though, because the opening weekend of Pirates of the Caribbean, it did $46.6 million. This opening weekend was 24.
Oof.
And you don't have Johnny Depp to carry you. And let's face it, Johnny Depp at that time was kind of big shit. He only got bigger after he played Jack Sparrow. Now, you could argue that this movie would have Jared Leto. Fine. This movie does kind of have Jared Leto, but it only really has him in still form. It doesn't really have him. He's not an out there, upfront part. He's not in the movie posters. You know what I mean? The character he plays is, but his face isn't. So I think that if you made Jared Leto kind of the main bad guy, the second one again, had him way more involved and even like got to show his face a little bit, that would probably drive the movie a little bit more financially. But you still wouldn't make it to the Pirates of the Caribbean level. I mean, you could make 4 of these movies and even make them all about as good as this movie was. And shut up, Siri. And there is no way in hell that this franchise would make $4.8 billion. No. There's just no way. You'd be lucky if all these movies together made $1 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the projections are for, but I mean, I can't imagine that this movie's projected to do anything more than probably $350 million. And the international box office for Pirates of the Caribbean was $350 million. To say nothing of the domestic, and to say nothing of the $655 million, $654 million it did worldwide. So I don't know.
Well, the thing is you look at it from a fan point of view. I think Pirates of the Caribbean the ride itself has more of a, I don't want to say more attraction than the Haunted Mansion does. But it's like haunted houses and ghosts are, like a very like particular kind of a niche, I guess you would say. And it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. Everybody knows Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like the first thing you typically think about when you talk about Disney World or Disneyland, whatever, typically tends to be Pirates of the Caribbean or, because it's just, I don't know, Haunted Mansion. It's not typically what people look at the most when it comes to that. So I think you making hell, now I'm afraid we're going to make a ride of, Space Mountain if we don't already have one.
Maybe.
They're actually in the process of working on a movie for Tower of Terror. So I see that. I could see that honestly playing a role if that's the franchise that they're talking about. Where, I forgot about Tower of Terror too. So, I mean, they could honestly be like Tower of Terror in the style of like Haunted Mansion or something, but it's like, same story, kind of, not really. I don't know. I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean just has a little bit higher of a popularity for people than Haunted Mansion does itself. So that definitely it helped Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously. And Haunted Mansion just kind of was like, oh, it's that ride, the spooky ride. Okay. But
yeah, I don't see this turning into a franchise. I can't.
I don't want it to.
I don't know how they can look at this. I don't think how they can look at this final product of what they've got for this and think it's going to be anywhere near what Pirates of the Caribbean was. And not only that, Pirates of the Caribbean had a couple things going for them. One, you had a really amazing cast of people who were kind of up and coming at the moment, but they were ready to pop, and they all popped at the same time. Keira Knightley, you had Johnny Depp, and
Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom. I don't know why I was drawing a blank of the name. But, you had the luxury of that. I don't think you really have that. I mean, the guy that plays Ben, he could be, LaKeith Stanfield. He could be that one guy, but Tiffany Haddish was already at her popularity. So is Owen Wilson, Katie DeVito, same thing. Rosario Dawson, the same thing. Jared Leto is already really big. You don't really have a cast full of people that are about to pop except for him. Everybody else is already kind of popped. So you don't really have that going for you. And then to top it off, wasn't Orlando Bloom, while he was doing the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, wasn't he also doing the Lord of the Rings movies?
This was like right after. So yeah, that was like 2001, 2, and 3. They filmed them all in New Zealand, and then Pirates was also 03. So he was putting in some work for sure. It was right around that same time. So yeah, he was popping off.
He was a busy guy.
Yeah, so there was probably a lot of carryover people who liked him in the Lord of the Rings movies and kind of jumped over to see him in Pirates of the Caribbean. But I don't know. I can't see it being that kind of a franchise. Now, will they make a sequel? Probably. A lot of it's going to depend on how much money this makes. Like I said, the budget for this was what I say it was earlier. It was 150. The budget for the original Pirates was like 140. So You're looking at this movie needing to make I'm willing to bet somewhere around 250 or 300 to break even.
Yeah, you can probably shoot for 3, but I don't know if you're going to make it.
Maybe 2. Just to break even.
I know. I'm like, if you want
to say nothing to be profitable.
Oh yeah, that's still a failure even if you break even. So yeah, like so you're talking you want to make 5, 6, something like that, a little more to be successful.
Yeah,
so
I'm not sure this.
That's why I was saying I don't know if Disney should be trying to take that risk. It's like they kind of did that with Indiana Jones. I'm like, you dumped all of this budget into this movie because like you're kind of, and I mean, that's great. You want to expect $1 billion out of it. And I'm like, but you're not going to get that. I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like you really took a big shot there. And I'm like, yeah, but now you're going to trip and fall on your face. So I don't know. I'm just saying nothing that Disney's done recently has really stuck, like I said earlier. So
yeah, that's the other thing is Disney's been struggling lately with a lot of its stuff. And this movie didn't even suffer what Disney tends to do to itself. It wasn't really a woke movie or anything like that.
No. It wasn't
in this.
No.
I don't. I was talking about that actually with my boss today because she's like she hates Disney. She hates them with a burning passion, and she's like, they're too woke. She goes, I just see this being another woke movie. And I was like, honestly, there's not a single bit of wokeness or if anything, the most annoying thing was just the product placement.
Yeah.
Like it was told that
this movie was just ad after ad after ad.
In frame. Like, give me some of them jalapeno poppers. Like, okay. That was probably the most
damn it, I should have done that. When, like Owen Wilson was sitting in the car, he just very clearly had the Burger King bag like in his hands. I'm like, okay, guys, come on.
For a minute, it did remind me of that scene in Wayne's World where he's like, I will not bow down to corporate sponsors, and he's like Doritos.
He's got like the pizza.
It was almost that obtuse. Let's see.
I should have sat here with a Burger King bag. Damn it. That's all right.
Yeah, Tex is asking, did the Hatbox Ghost have any face tattoos? Let's put that picture back up here and look. Hatbox Ghost, no, not really.
No, he didn't.
And now that I know that Tex is watching, here's his favorite actress that I know that.
There you go. Boom. Just for you.
Adam Leota everywhere.
Just for you, Tex. Your favorite actress, Miss Jamie, the legendary Jamie Lee Curtis. But let's take a minute now. Yeah, let's take a minute now and. What'd you say?
I was gonna say, and it does suck that she was also. It didn't feel like she was on top of her game either, which really sucks.
No. She at points. I feel like she was at the very end. And that's
she was. Yeah, when she was with Tiffany Haddish and they were trying to like banish the Hatbox Ghost, I'm like, all right, it's pretty badass. Go get him. But
I was hoping that her character would be a bit more motherly towards Tiffany Haddish's character, when especially towards the end.
Yeah.
But she kind of was, but she was like only a sorceress who really believes in her power can do this, and you just see her. You don't really see that part play out. I think that would have been a lot funner. Yeah. But I would like for them to have developed some kind of a kidship, so that way if you do make a second movie, if you do bring Tiffany Haddish in, there can already be, you can start off with this established relationship between the two characters, which would be really fun, because it would be kind of fun to see a modern day psychic medium, kind of go, toe to toe, verbally with good dialogue with somebody who is a 400-year-old psychic medium who's locked in a crystal ball. That would be a lot of fun. I think that would be
400 years. It was only a couple months, right?
Yeah, sure.
So she thought.
So she thought.
That genuinely did make me laugh a little bit. I was like, okay, that's actually funny.
Well, I still don't understand the whole. It'll cost you $3. Where the hell are you gonna? Where do we? Sorry, is there a slot? Do you take Visa? Like, where the hell do I put this?
Right.
But let's go on to a little bit of trivia real quick. Let's see. I think I kind of mentioned this when we did the last one, but it's kind of the same thing here. Gracie Manor is modeled after the original Disneyland Haunted Mansion. Crump Manor is modeled after the Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World. Something you kind of alluded to already there, Birdie Gamer.
That's because he catches the important Easter eggs. I'm just like, that's a big house.
Well, I'm sure when that came on screen, I'm not so sure I didn't jump in my seat a little bit, look at Jeremy and go, that's Orlando's.
Yeah, I was like, I would not have known. I would not have known.
Who that is?
I'm like, no, I don't.
Our resident super nerd.
And how am I not a ghost hunter yet? Like, what the hell? No.
Let's see. Another piece of trivia is a U-Haul truck is shown with the skeletal depiction of Dr. Facilier, the Shadow Man, the antagonist of The Princess and the Frog from 2009, another occultist Disney film set in New Orleans. I actually did notice that when they were in the beginning of the movie, as they were pulling into town with the U-Haul, I did notice not only that it had New Orleans on the side of it, but also that it had the scary figure guy who's kind of prominent in a lot of the New Orleans occultist stuff.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I didn't see Dr. Facilier. That's kind of funny. That's actually hilariously the jacket I'm wearing, because I'm like, well, it also kind of makes sense since they didn't have a jacket that isn't, torn up for President Loki. But I was like, this is actually like a voodoo type, jacket. There's a little dude somewhere. There he is. There's a little, dude with pins in him and shit.
Hey, little
I'm
dude.
like, I mean, there's a skull on the back of whatnot, So this is something you'd see in probably in New Orleans. So, and yeah, when I wore this last time in the haunted cave, I had a half skull mask and the top hat, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's Dr. Facilier." I'm like, no, but okay, sure. I realized,
no, kid, but thanks.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh my god, that's the dude from the Princess and the Frog," and I'm like, "This is just me wearing shit." And I'm like, about an hour into the night, I was like, God, I was like, damn it. The problem with that is literally the next room, the next scene behind me is like a swamp. So I'm like, well, I'm not helping my case then if I'm really not supposed to be him. So I'm like, I'll lean into it. Screw it. I did this to myself.
Another small piece of trivia is due to the actor strike, Disney had popular characters from their theme park as well as other movies show up on the red carpet for the premiere. This is because the actors would not be promoting any upcoming films or shows during the strike. So yeah, something we've heard from a couple of different things now. Yeah, this
is not going to help things either. So
yeah, it's going to. I mean, as much as I respect them for going on strike and kind of side with them on a lot of things, part of me is kind of like, damn it, we just got back to like a regular release schedule after the whole pandemic thing. Can we have a couple of years of you guys not being pissed off at each other for something? But that's just me.
Not the time, I guess.
I love that.
Yeah, another small piece of trivia. The original design of the Hatbox Ghost was inspired by Lon Chaney in the silent film London After Midnight. Lon Chaney was wanted to play Gwynplaine in the silent film adaptation of The Man Who Laughs, which is awesome. But the part went to Conrad Veidt. And the image of Veidt in the film inspired the look of the Joker in DC Comics, a character that Jared Leto is also portrayed on the screen.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. So that right there, you could say, is the Joker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kinda. I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna haunt you really, really badly.
Really. God, you could have wrote that line a little better. Jesus.
Good. Let's see. Another piece of trivia. Let's see. The character names of William Gracie and Alistair Crump are named after Yale Gracie and Raleigh Crump, the two Imagineers most actively responsible for the art design of the Haunted Mansion attraction in Disneyland. I think we mentioned William Gracie a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I love how Disney pays homage to their great creators from the 50s and 60s, even today. I mean, because honestly, what 15 to 20-year-old would even know the names of these people if they weren't somehow kept alive?
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, Crump, he just passed away not too long ago. He was. He actually did an interview with a YouTube channel I watch called Offhand Disney, who is also a really big Haunted Mansion fan, and he did an interview with him, and he went over the different original Haunted Mansion was going to be a walkthrough attraction, and how it was going to be. It was called the Museum of the Weird, and one of the chairs, they call it the Donald Duck chair, and it's one of the chairs. I think that that Ben is sitting in. It has like a weird design, and it was actually meant to resemble Donald Duck. But that was going to be, and everybody like turned him away and was like, "That's not going to happen." Then they switched over to the Haunted Mansion idea. And Walt Disney was like, what's all this? So like the clock, the weird demon clock, the chair, all of those were actually created by Crump, that design. So that was really cool to see because, I mean, this man was a direct window to Walt Disney. So, I mean, he told us all the stories and all the beginning of how the mansion started. I mean, this guy had stories for hours. There's interviews all over the internet about him. with him about the history of the mansion and everything. So that they definitely pay like a huge homage. Like a lot of the gravestones usually use the names of the people who worked on the ride or worked within the film or something. So I'm sure the tombstones in the basement of Crump's Manor were probably a lot of the names from people who worked on the film and stuff, which is usually really cool. I like that they like Frank said, the paying a homage to people who worked on the ride or people who have a direct history with this are immortalized in this way.
Make sure I'm looking at the right movie here. I'm looking at the wrong one. Haunted Mansion. Sorry, I'm trying to do a little bit of research on the fly here.
You're good.
Let's see. Another piece of interesting trivia is, despite it being his catchphrase and being in a movie about haunted houses, Owen Wilson never once in this movie says "wow."
Yeah.
Never once. You know, until I read that piece of trivia, I didn't even realize it.
Oh, I did, because I kept saying it. I was saying it for him.
Yeah. Well, my coworker was walking. He goes, "I hope to God Owen's gonna walk and go, wow,
Wow.
wow." And then, you know, as he's just like, I mean, that's literally when he came on screen. I went, wow. Like,
Wow.
I know
It's
the guy.
it's expected now. It's like a joke at this point. So it's like they don't even want to give it to us. They didn't do it in Loki. They're not going to do it in this. And I'm like, come on, have some fun, damn it.
Honestly,
Loki season 2. I'm waiting for it. Just say wow once.
I'm pretty sure that I've heard something about that. He's not allowed to.
Probably not now. Not anymore.
No, because of
Really?
that. It was, yeah. And I don't. I mean, the problem is I can't remember where I heard it. So for all I know, it was a rumor. We'll stick with it being a rumor. But like, he's not allowed to say wow because it's an iconic thing from The Haunting and all that. And I was like, I even rewatched Cars just to prove a point once, and I don't even think he says wow in that either.
No, but we got ka-chow out of that, so that's fine.
Just as good in my opinion. But
ka-chow.
But you know, it was like I think it's so iconic for him alone. Where I mean, if you can find a pop figure that Owen Wilson has ever of an actor he's played character, and it's signed wow, I'm sure. Like I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere or read something that he's not allowed to say wow. It's like trademark.
Yeah, you can write it. It's fine.
Say it like
if you were wow on a pop, it'd be fine.
Who trademarked the word wow?
Probably the same idiot who tried to trademark the Carlton dance or the whatever.
Oh, Alfonso.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Fortnite was doing it. And he was like, "That is a popular thing. My dance is in it. Now I'm going to sue you for money." It's like, no, you're not, dude. No.
You wanted that coin, you better did it when you had the chance.
That's not how it's gonna work, dude. I'm sorry. I love Alfonso, but dude, no, that's not gonna work.
Did you guys know that this is actually the third adaptation based on the Haunted Mansion after the Haunted Mansion 2003 and the Muppets Haunted Mansion that came out in 2021?
I forgot about it.
I think most people probably did.
I watched it out of pure curiosity because I mean, who doesn't love the Muppets? It's the fucking Muppets. Right. But I watched it and I'm like, this is the dumb. Like, it's the Muppets, so you know what to expect. It's gonna be stupid. Like,
hey, Christmas Carol was a goddamn treasure. You watch your mouth.
No, that was an amazing movie. I loved it. That movie did Haunted Mansion Ghost better in that than it did.
Oh man, those ghosts, yeah, those are freaky. Man.
Fozzie Bear was oh god, because they called him like instead of like Hatbox Ghost, he was like something. It was Fozzie's. It was a play on that somewhere, but he was Ghost in that, and I'm like, I couldn't unsee the big fucking teeth and everything when.
Well, I mean, you're trying to work around Muppets that have like iconic looks.
Yeah,
you're trying to convince me a frog and a pig look like these two different,
Yeah, it was a little like, oh, cute, but I don't think they even really referenced much of the Haunted Mansion within that, except for like, Constance being some actress. I can't. Oh my god, I would know her name if I can see her face, but I can't. Pinpoint who she is, but like that was always funny that she's constantly trying to hide all the decapitated characters around her, where she's like got an axe and she's like throwing it. She's like, what axe? Like stuff like that. It was typical cute little Muppet. Yep, exactly. It was typical Muppets, antics, crazy shit and all that. But it was just like I watched it and I'm like, okay, that was it. That's a thing. Like this definitely did not stop putting him on screen. What was that shot with him up in the rafters and he's like lighting the candles or something, or was he extinguishing them?
No, that was the shot when Ben gets possessed and he's floating when he first gets possessed.
Yeah, well,
he's floating up over, and then he just kind of looks around.
Over to him, and I'm like, oh, hello. Like no words are said, not even a hi. He just like, what the
looks like freaking looks like Beetlejuice and the Crypt Keeper had a kid.
Right? Well, that's the ghost that you see at the beginning of the movie when he's running and he's like chasing him with the hatchet or the axe or whatever he had in his hand.
Oh, yeah.
He had a deep voice. That's who that is, because that is that is supposedly, and I'm pretty sure Imagineers came out and confirmed it, that's the ghost host. So when you're riding the ride and you're hearing, like the entire spiel, that's who that is. Mortals. Typically, he's got a noose around his neck, but he doesn't in this. He does have the hatchet in the ride. On his portrait, he is holding a hatchet, and he's got the noose around his neck. But which again, leads up to the fact that on the ride, he says this window or this chamber has no windows and no doors. There's no way of escaping, kind of blah, blah, blah. But there's always my way. Lightning strikes, look up, and there's a skeleton hanging from the ceiling. You get that guy. So I think they should have put the noose around his neck. In fact, he may have it around his neck from what I'm looking at. I can't tell. I don't know. He's actually labeled as the Hermit in the credits. So I'm not sure. His voice sounded kind of spot on to Thurl Ravencroft, the voice of the ghost host. So it sounded pretty good. I wish he would have had a little bit more character development than just he's showing up once or twice, and then just we get this like super awkward like stare down where he floats up and he's just there. And it's like, what? You just hanging out up here? What are you doing? Like,
apparently he was just hanging out,
right? But yeah, he was. It was cool to see him make an appearance. I did like that as one of his portraits because his portrait looked really good. That, and the longer I look at him, he's not a bad looking special. I don't know how much of that is practical effects. I'm sure it's kind of a mix of both. It doesn't look bad. He's uncomfortable to look at, which is the goal.
I have a staring contest with him right now.
If you made the ghost too hot, it would have been a totally different movie.
Right. I think he's. Honestly, I think it worked. He works as a scary looking visual. Like, that scares me more than the Hatbox Ghost. And that I could see this motherfucker being his lackey, but like the Igor to his Dr. Frankenstein, which was so elegantly referenced in this movie. But
see, another small piece of trivia that I was getting ready to get to before Brooding Gamer went off on one of his tangents. Did you see that Vic, the co-host at Crump Manor, could briefly be heard to play the theme to another Disney attraction on the piano? It's a Small World.
Yes.
I actually didn't catch that. I didn't even really hear what he was saying. I was too wrapped up with what they were doing, so what he was playing didn't really do anything for me.
Yeah, I got a laugh out of that because he's like, no singing, because people hate the fucking words to that song.
I did hear him say no singing. I didn't realize that's what he was talking about. Oh, well. I'll have to catch it next time I watch it on Disney+. Let's see. This, of course, is the second Disney movie remake for Jamie Lee Curtis. The other one being Freaky Friday, which came out in 2003, the same year as the original.
Wow.
As the original, this movie.
The Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion, right. Let's see. Yeah, that's really all the good trivia there is for this.
It's too new.
Yeah, it's awfully new. I even tried to find, because usually I can go on like the Wikipedia page and find a few interesting things about the production. But A, I never know exactly what's true from Wikipedia, and B, this one just didn't have a lot. But like you said, it's awfully new. But that's not a bad place to start wrapping things up. Again, it wasn't a bad movie. Let me go around and get your guys' final thoughts on this film before we get out of here. I'll start with you, Broody Gamer. What did you think of this movie? Quick paragraph summing up your overall thoughts.
I'll keep it brief because I talk too much. At the end of the day, it's a good movie. It's not the best. It's not a 10 out of 10, but I don't see it being a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. I see this as it's going to be a cute little, cute in quotes, little movie to put on during Halloween or during spooky time, and it'll make a good addition to 31 Days of Halloween on whatever that channel is now. I don't know.
AMC?
Freeform.
Freeform.
Whatever it was before Freeform. I think it has some promise to, I'd love to see an extended edition version of this to see if they have where they remove some scenes, because typically those scenes tend to be a lot better than what we actually got. So at the end of the day, I was happy. I don't regret. It was not a waste of money for me. I'll gladly own it and watch it during the spooky season or when I'm bored or just have a Haunted Mansion marathon or whatever. But
of both movies?
Yeah.
Are you going to include the Muppet movie?
Well, my day's over already. No, I was happy. I still think I've got some improvements that I'd like to see, and I wasn't a big fan of some of the actors, but apart from that, still a good movie.
Jeremy, how about you? Quick paragraph summing up your thoughts on Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed the movie as it was going on. Like I said, maybe the pacing was a little weird. The ads were a little bit obnoxious, but the guy, like we said, the guy who plays Ben, the main character, he took his movie, ran with it, and I was running right along trying to keep up with him because, he had me going, like I said, just with his delivery, with his emotion, all that jazz. All that New Orleans jazz, I guess I should say. I can't hear that one tune. It's like an iconic little tune, and I was telling him like, oh, that's in Left 4 Dead 2 because they're in New Orleans, and you hear that like, like you hear that little tune. And I just
when the Saints go marching in. Yes.
So instead of ghosts, I see zombies sometimes, but same deal. They're dead either way. I might take him. I wouldn't mind watching it again. So, I would trust his judgment because if you saw it again and said it was still, it was still good. I would definitely give it another shot. It's unique in its own way. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, overall, a lot of the same of the 2003 version. It was typical Disney fare, which doesn't necessarily bother me. Again, this is kind of where Disney is at its best, is when they just do this, heartfelt family stuff that kind of, that ends up really, shut up, Siri, I'm not talking to you.
She really wants in this show.
I know, my Apple Watch is super sensitive for some reason. But, it's when Disney, from its inception, has been making movies like this and it's been doing it very well. This movie is not a bad movie at all. Did I want more out of it? Sure. But am I disappointed by this movie? Not at all. It's a very emotional movie. You get really emotionally attached to the Ben character really, really quickly. He's a very likable character, and LaKeith Stanfield's a very likable actor. I can't tell you how much he really stands out in this film and kind of carries it all. And then you throw in Danny DeVito and Rosario Dawson and all these great people who are really good at what they do. It just makes it that much funner. The special effects, they still looked a little dated, but you didn't expect anything too crazy. Like I said, I kind of wanted them to kind of show a few more horror elements to make it a little bit more scarier, but not too much outside the realm of what a Disney movie is. But ultimately, it wasn't a bad film. I don't know that I'll go see it in theaters again, but when it comes out on Disney Plus here in a couple of months, I can see myself, my kids are over one day where I'm sitting here with my daughters or something, or my nephews, and I can put this on and order a pizza and eat some popcorn, just sit and hang out with them and have fun with it. I don't feel like I've wasted an hour and a half or 2 hours of my time watching this movie. I think it's time well spent. It's a good movie. It's well acted, a really good story. The special effects were fair. They weren't so bad that they took away from the movie for me at all. So overall, it was a very good movie, and it's got Rosario Dawson in it, and I love Rosario Dawson, as we've already established more than once. Have I said that before? Anyway,
I think once or twice.
Yeah, once or twice. But that seems like a good place to start wrapping things up. I want to thank my great co-host for being here, as always. We'll have Tex and probably Cora back on Thursday for whatever we decide to do. But and what we're going to do on Thursday, I don't quite know yet. I'll go over that with the crew. But I want to thank Broody Gamer for being here and hanging out with us today. Why don't you pimp your channel? Tell us what you got going on, my friend.
Well, on my channel, I'm just getting ready to focus on, again, because the Brooding Gamer channel has kind of just been left in limbo, no pun intended with this review, but I'm kind of been focusing more on my channel, the Ghost Host, or Your Ghost Host, where I'm covering all things Haunted Mansion, Disney, and just especially with it getting ready to be spooky season here soon, a lot of Halloween decor hunting, which is going to be cool, because Father Tuesday, I'm going to try and get him and his
I was like, please, dear God,
Grim Grinning Tuesday, or Grim Grinning Grim Tuesday involved in that. So that'll be really cool. And I'm actually going to be doing my own Haunted Mansion review here very shortly on my, on my channel here very soon.
And to my hetero life mate, Father Tuesday, who did not spontaneously combust for this entire live stream, I'm very happy to say. What do you got going on, my friend?
Hey, the show's not over yet. I could go out with a bang, quite literally. That'll be the last frame. Is me just bursting. Yeah, like Brooding Gamer said, and I've said many times before, I exist in his universe of, YouTube channels as different entities like Ian Malcolm, and I don't really know what I'm going to be now. I guess I'm the Grim Grinning Grim Tuesday. That's a name we're going to have to work on. Holy crap.
We'll figure it out.
God. But yeah, so there's that on here. Like we said, we'll be back Thursday. We're here every Thursday, save for, holidays or something happens. Not really sure what we're doing yet, but hey, that's what I can't even call it Twitter. I don't even know what to call it anymore. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Is it Elon Musk's Playhouse? I don't fucking know anymore.
It better be temporary as fuck. I hate it. So stupid.
I don't know. Whatever Elon Musk is calling it this week, I think is what I said last time. So that thing. But there's that. I've actually been playing more games with her. She's in there somewhere. So actually, Frank, you'll be tickled to know I actually finally got her to play Fortnite. And you have somebody that plays The Sims. Very creative person, likes to build stuff. So there you go. I know. I'm like, well, she can help build, some of our
if we
maps
get a Hotbox Ghost in there, I'm definitely be
yeah, so I'm about to start playing more stuff with her. We tried Keep Talking and No One Explodes. Speaking of which, ironically, that's a fun game. We're only strengthening our relationship through communication and trying to not be detonated by a bomb. Yeah, that's kind of all I've got. I don't really know what video games I've been playing otherwise. And like you said, spooky season's coming up, so that's going to be a big focus of mine moving forward for the next honestly for the next while until the end of October. So that's always fun. I don't know if I want to do anything with that on the Instagrams and whatever the kids do these days, but as Bernie Gamer mentioned, and I'm like, maybe I should turn that into like a cosplay prop kind of thing, but I guess that would still count. So I don't know. Be looking for that stuff. It's all. My name's not Downer, damn it. It's Grim Tuesday 23. This is just an entity.
This episode? Did I miss that?
Well, now that I've been, I guess, ordained in some weird way, I'm taking this off as soon as we're done. Don't worry. Back to normal.
As for me, you can find me here a couple nights a week. The next one will be on Thursday for one of the two movies that we're kind of kicking around. It's gonna be one of them. I'm about to make an executive decision and make it the funny one, but they're both kind of funny, so I don't know if that really means anything. But anyway, let's see. Once again, my watch is beeping me for something or other. You can find us here a couple nights a week going over some reviews. Again, while the writer's strike and all that stuff is going on, there's not a whole lot of new content. The only thing to really talk about is the writer's strike, and I'm kind of tired of talking about it. The writers and the actors are now on strike. But we'll be doing mostly reviews from now on anyway. I think that's a better way to go. They get a little bit more attention on the YouTube algorithm. And I think we all kind of like doing reviews a lot more. There's going to be some new stuff that we talk about, but I think reviews is kind of where it's going to go. And until then, I will see you guys. Oh, wait, Tex had a question real quick. It's kind of an easy one. So, Jeremy, what was the kill count? what was the actual body count for this? I think it's a fairly easy answer, don't you?
Well, considering damn near 1,000 of them are already dead, and you can't kill a ghost, so Hatbox wouldn't count. Pretty sure no one died.
I beg to differ, sir. There were 999 souls, so I would put the kill count 999.
Well, no, but we didn't see them die. I was like, well, yes, there's 999 ghosts, but we didn't see them die. I'm like, they're already dead. Right.
Who cares anyway? Thank you to my amazing co-host for being so awesome. Thanks to Brooding Gamer for coming in and hanging out with us again. We will see you guys all in a couple of days for whatever we do next. Till next time, adios.
That was definitely not sacrilegious what I did right there.
It was definitely not sacrilegious at all. Why isn't that letting me scroll up? There we go. Now I can go to the actual thumbnail. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming and hanging out. We appreciate it. See you later.
Stay away from graveyards.
No. Party in graveyards.
In your backyard? Yeah, backyard party.